Alright, so here we are at the assault on Malmo. Just finished the fourth turn. Lost another leader I gotta put on the map. But the Danes have really been chased off the walls at least. The last unit had been pushing around here, took a salvo fire, which I can remove now, which didn't destroy it outright. That's why a salvo fire was actually done. Advantage with salvo fire is you force a morale check. It was already weak in morale. It routed. It had nowhere to retreat to, going here and then here. So it had to check on whether it stood or not, and it dissolved. And other units routing off the map, we're beginning to see none of these are in the blue area. These are all destroyed units. So that heavy infantry is really beginning to count up. On the other hand, we're beginning to see a few more of those Swedish lights disintegrating. Now that there are Danish units placed able to fire right at the fortifications, they're actually able to do some significant damage once they're in place. They just can't do advancing fire effectively, etc. Had I thought more about that, I might have played this a little differently. I think that could be used quite well, because those lights seem impressive when you're marching up on them compared to lights normally, but once you're facing them one-on-one, you can pretty much make them disintegrate. So I'm not sure I played this right, charging up and putting the bridges down as fast as I could. I think maybe firing and trying to soften up weak areas of the wall where there aren't a lot of artillery might work well. Of course, one of the advantages also, though, was some of those lights were sitting where I had already breached the wall and taken out the guns on the wall. That extra bonus is significant, and having weakened that section of the wall now is actually more ripe for attack. Unfortunately, the Swedes can just ignore that section of the wall. They don't actually have to defend it. There's nothing I can do to cross that unless I can bring this one remaining bridge across. A lot of decisions, a lot of thought, I think, goes into this one before you start playing it. I'm more of a hey, let's just jump into this. And you'll see that in a lot of my games, not just the war games. And I know that it gets some gripes when I'm playing the CDG war game-ish sort of things. But with this, like with those, I think one has to put a lot of thought beforehand into what they're going to do and how they want to affect it. That may be the case with most of the battles in the Musket and Pike series, that at least in this boxed set. Some of the other sets I feel like you can just ram the troops together and it's not that big a deal. But in this one I think I've paid the price harder. At least the designer seems to be picking on me more for my bad choices. But you know, it's a fun way to learn it and to see it, and I think this one definitely is a more interesting puzzle than some of the others. I think there's a lot of choices to be made here that can affect things. We're also seeing the Swedes routing. They've got most of that under control, but they've got one light unit trying to get back into the fortress. Alright, I think we'll go on with turn 5, but I don't know how much longer the Danes are going to keep this up. Certainly as long as they have a couple bridges and things look weak here, they will. There's not that much for the Swedes to throw in the way, but a heavy unit like this is pretty damn effective. Okay, so here we are at the end of 5 turns, and we're seeing whatever has been happening, the Danes are just barely holding on to their couple of bridges and the causeway. Yeah, sometimes it looks like they're going to gain ground, but it's just really, really rough on them. Now, the disadvantage for the Swedes is they can't move their heavies around because they're not in open order. That gives them an advantage when they actually start fighting. The Danes have to clear those heavies off the walls to get a lot of traction. But the Swedes can't just move them around at will. The lights, on the other hand, they can, so they moved up to this raveling here because they're seeing, hey, everybody's leaving, and might as well take that forward defensive position just in case they come back. It gives a little bit more time, kind of a speed bump. You see, they're not terribly effective. Even lights can overrun them, but you gotta put something up there, especially if he's gonna start moving this heavy over, which he may do. He doesn't want to do it quite yet because this could just wheel on it and make an attack still. If it gets more committed, though, that heavy could be useful elsewhere. See, the routed unit made it into the Citadel. Another routed units over here. A bunch of kind of questionable morale units trying to reform more than anything else. And they hope to get back on the walls. Filling in up here, put some lights in the way. They took a shot. They lived. Kind of iffy. That's a heavy they're facing, but it's a pretty beaten up one, so it seemed worth getting in its way this time. Alright. Going pretty well so far, I think. So, here we are. Pretty much the central attack stalled. We got back on the wall here, but I don't think that's going to last long. In fact, if the Swedes turn and actually assault, they might be able to get this bridge. They've already got this bridge. Grandvilliers went into charge formation orders, but he didn't get a continuation, and he didn't get into this bridge in time. That's going to be taken and destroyed by the Swedes. If this one goes too, I think the Danes ought to just call it a day and take off. They can't win this without their assault bridges. They have one shot with this thing, but even so, they'll hit the weaker area of the wall if they can. But there's a lot of force there right now. Still haven't moved my right wing. Been kind of, oh yeah, I have. I've been kind of forming it up, and nothing more than that. So I still haven't done the Swedes, is what I haven't done. Everything on the Danes I've done. We'll see whether the Swedes can completely drive them off the wall. If those two bridges fall, I think I'm going to probably call it right there. I might make that one more attempt. What's really tough is the orders that force you to move forward and engage the guys on the wall. You know, I was saying, well, the heavies can handle it. Well, I mean, they're still not much better than even attacking lights in locations where the guns have been crippled already. That's really not a good option, actually. And I'm really seeing the effects of it. Yeah, I got lucky a couple of times, wiped out a couple of units, thought I was doing great. You face a heavy on the wall, and you're just hosed, with or without those extra cannons. So that's the end of 6 at Malmo. Well, one of the bridges held. Basically, the Swedes couldn't turn and attack this. They could have destroyed it if they did. They couldn't turn and attack it because of this guy down here. They do that, they lose their cannon if they advance, and they had to advance to take out the bridge. So, I think this bridge actually got bumped. I think it had been facing here. Oh, well. I made worse mistakes, I'm sure. So this bridge is remaining. I've still got this one to come up, so I can keep going. Took one of those heavy units and put it into open order. Planning on trying to move it forward to where things are weaker. Got cannons, etc. here. That should protect against an assault. We'll see. If they clear this area, that assault bridge may end up landing on that bastion. The bastions are tough, except for the Swedish one, or the Stockholm one. Nothing else much moved. Got some formation attempts, a little bit of rallying going on back here. But that's about it. More units routing, more units destroyed, more Danish losses. That pile is getting pretty big. After 7, here at Malmo. not a lot's moved. We see Grandvilliers up on the bridge. He still hasn't deployed his own bridge. That'll be coming soon, hopefully. The left wing is kind of a very tiny force here, totally traffic jammed, unable to do anything. Left them in charge because they weren't going to get themselves in trouble. The center is what's sitting here and here. That's kind of part of a roadblock. I can't figure out how to get them out of there. I could attack. That would work. But I didn't quite want to do that until I definitely had this bridge. So maybe this next turn. Rest of the center slowly melting away wherever it was near the walls. Got that right wing crawling over. That's actually in pretty good shape. So I've still got a decent amount of force to put. But the problem is, the Swedes haven't really lost anything. They've lost some light infantry. And they're moving in replacements. They've got some that were shaken, routing. But largely those have returned to the fold and are getting right on this wall. With only one place to attack being decided, they can concentrate most of their force there. That's not to say everything. As long as this bridge exists, there's a possibility to land anywhere, and there are these stone bridges, and some attention has to be paid to defend them. However, I did move another command into open order to move a heavy infantry towards the wall. I don't think that matters at all, but that's what we're going to have. Seeing the losses here, they're truly horrendous for the Danes. If you look, the Swedes are all little light infantry. The Danes, mostly heavies or big light infantry units. Ouchie. So here at the end of turn 8, a highly improbable assault succeeded here and knocked. Where is he? Yeah, the leader wasn't there at the time, but knocked a heavy unit. Okay, I can't do that without tweezers. Anyway, there's a heavy Swedish infantry there that got knocked off the wall. And then a second assault enabled the Danes to take the cannon itself. That's cleared the road for this bridge. We've got a place this next bridge may end up going. There's enough forces that could exploit if a breach, if control of that wall is taken, stretching across here, where basically the city itself could probably fall if that can be widened quickly enough. Unlike the earlier attacks where each wing was on its own and there wasn't enough, after it made its attack, it just didn't have enough to exploit it. Now I've got enough forces with that left wing able to push in, with the right wing able to push forward, so that the center isn't doing all the work. Grandvilliers, whatever his wing is going to be doing a major attacking in this direction, we're hoping. So things are looking a little brighter for the Danes than they did a moment ago. Of course, this would still be pretty key, but widening this, they've got control of two bridges in close proximity. They should be able to get some forces through, I hope, maybe, I don't know. Alright.